This is my Lamborghini Gallardo, which looks like this after I put it into a ditch.
Oh no.
The CEO of Lamborghini just made a statement about Mat Armstrong, and it is not what anyone expected. Not a warning, not a cease and desist, not another manufacturer adding their voice to the chorus of corporate opposition that has defined this story since the day a crashed Bugatti showed up at a Miami workshop. What Stefan Winkelmann said was something that nobody in the automotive industry predicted from a CEO who simultaneously runs two of the most exclusive supercar brands on the planet. And when you hear exactly what was said and why it was said, and what it means for everything that has happened between Mat Armstrong and the manufacturers who have been opposing him, you'll understand immediately why this statement changes everything. Not some things. Everything. Think about who Stefan Winkelmann actually is. Because this is not just any CEO making a statement. This is one of the most powerful and most consequential executives in the premium automotive world. A man who held the Lamborghini CEO position from 2005 to 2016 and transformed the company from a brand living in the shadow of its historic glory days into a global supercar phenomenon setting sales records in every major market in the world. A man who introduced the Huracan and the Aventador and shepherded the Urus SUV into existence. A man who then moved to Audi Sport before being appointed president and CEO of Bugatti. And then in December 2020 took on both roles simultaneously. President and CEO of Lamborghini, President and CEO of Bugatti, two of the most exclusive automotive brands in the Volkswagen Group. One man, two brands, both of them deeply implicated in the most significant independent repair controversy in automotive YouTube history. And that man just made a statement about Mat Armstrong, and it is shocking. But before we get to the statement itself, before we get to the specific words that Stefan Winkelmann chose, and what those words mean in the context of everything this story has produced, we need to understand the specific position that Winkelmann occupies relative to this conflict. Because the dual CEO role is not just an interesting biographical detail. It is the key to understanding why his statement carries such extraordinary weight. Winkelmann runs Lamborghini. Mat Armstrong has wrecked Lamborghinis in his workshop. Mat Armstrong has faced Lamborghini-style restrictions on parts and access that follow the same pattern as the Bugatti opposition. Lamborghini has been watching this story with the same careful attention as every other manufacturer at their level. And Winkelmann also ran Bugatti during the period when the VIN lock and the parts refusal and the CEO Instagram video were all happening. He was there. He understood the strategy. He saw how it played out. And now, he has something to say about Mat Armstrong. And the man who has seen this conflict from the inside of both manufacturers is saying something that the automotive world was not prepared for. Now, let us establish the landscape of the conflict as it existed before Winkelmann's statement arrived. Because the statement does not come from nowhere. It comes from a specific moment in a specific sequence of events that created the conditions for a Lamborghini CEO to feel that speaking publicly about Mat Armstrong was necessary. The Bugatti Chiron Per Sport that drove 7.7 million people watching the first test drive in 4 days. The 8 brands inside the Bugatti exposed by cross-referencing part numbers. The Honda Civic radiator cores. The Mercedes-Benz Pyro fuse that Bugatti installed themselves. The 11-pound Amazon Bolt on Prime delivery. The Audi A3 airbag. The Aston Martin Squib. The Porsche crash sensors. The Volkswagen Passat air pump, the Lamborghini Gallardo fuse board, 8 brands, 5 of them Bugatti's own supply chain decisions, and all of them now public, permanent, on YouTube, forever. The moment that list became public, the moment the specific evidence of what is inside a $4 million Bugatti became freely available information to anyone with an internet connection. Every manufacturer at Bugatti's level had to make a decision. About what they said, about what they did, about how they positioned themselves relative to a story that was not going away and was only getting more powerful. And Winkelmann made his decision. He spoke. And what he said is the most significant thing any manufacturer CEO has said about this story since Mate Rimac made his 10-minute Instagram video. Except this time the significance runs in a completely different direction. Because here's the context that makes Winkleman's statement so extraordinary. Lamborghini under Winkleman has always positioned itself as the most passionate, the most emotionally engaged, the most human of the ultra-premium supercar brands. The brand that is uncompromising and extreme and Italian in a way that is as much about feeling as it is about performance. The brand whose customers do not just buy a car. They buy a relationship with the spirit of what Lamborghini represents. And the spirit of what Lamborghini represents, that uncompromising passion for extraordinary machines, is something that Mat Armstrong's work resonates with at a fundamental level. Because the passion for extraordinary machines that Mat Armstrong brings to every build he has ever done is not different from the passion that defines Lamborghini's brand identity. It is the same passion, expressed differently, through restoration rather than creation, through independent repair rather than factory build, but fundamentally the same love of the same thing. And Winkleman, who has spent his entire career understanding and cultivating and expressing that passion as a brand identity, recognized something in Mat Armstrong's work that the corporate opposition framing of the story had obscured. He recognized a kindred spirit, and he said so. Now let us talk about what the statement actually said, because the specific words Winkleman chose, the specific framing of his position relative to Mat Armstrong's work, is the detail that makes this a changing everything moment rather than simply an interesting comment from an automotive executive. He did not endorse the rebuild. He did not say Lamborghini supported independent repair of their vehicles. He did not make a policy statement about parts availability or authorized dealer networks or right to repair legislation. What he said was more fundamental and more powerful than any of those things. And here's a detail about Winkleman's personal automotive philosophy that makes his statement authentic rather than purely strategic. Because the most powerful statements are always the ones where the strategic interest and the genuine belief point in the same direction. Winkleman is on the record about what he wants Lamborghini to represent: uncompromising, extreme, Italian, a brand for people who feel something about cars, who are not just buyers, but believers, who do not purchase a Lamborghini as an investment or a status symbol, but as an expression of a relationship with performance and passion, and a specific feeling that only an extraordinary machine at full capability can produce. That is a Lamborghini customer, as Winkleman defines them. And Mat Armstrong is that person, not as a customer, as a builder, as someone whose relationship with extraordinary machines is so fundamental and so genuine that he will rebuild a crashed Bugatti without factory support, because a car deserves a second chance and the alternative is letting something irreplaceable be destroyed. Winkleman recognizes that, not just strategically, personally, and personal recognition from the CEO of Lamborghini and Bugatti is something that changes the dynamic of the story at the most fundamental level. Now let us talk about what this means for Mat Armstrong going forward. Because a public statement of acknowledgement from Stefan Winkleman is not just a cultural moment. It is a practical one. It changes what is possible, not immediately and not dramatically, but in the way that all significant shifts change what is possible, by moving the conversation from the territory of opposition to the territory of recognition. And recognition, once established at the CEO level of a manufacturer like Lamborghini, creates a different environment for every subsequent conversation about parts and access and support and the relationship between independent builders and the brands whose cars they work on. Mat Armstrong did not need Lamborghini CEO to validate his work. The 7.7 million views in 4 days validated his work. The 8 brands inside the Bugatti validated his work. The car driving validated his work. But Winkleman's statement does something that none of those validations could do by themselves. It opens a door in the institutional world, a door that did not exist before the statement was made. And doors, in Mat Armstrong's experience, are always worth walking through. The broader implications of Winkleman's statement for the other manufacturers in this story are significant and immediate, because Ferrari is watching. Ferrari, who has been managing their own opposition to Mat Armstrong's 296 GTB, rebuild with the quiet efficiency of a brand that learned from watching Bugatti's louder approach backfire. Ferrari, who blocked the challenge parts orders with a phone call rather than an Instagram video. Ferrari, who set the condition of certified body shop inspection before engaging with the hybrid controller issue. Ferrari is now watching the CEO of Lamborghini publicly acknowledge the legitimacy of independent rebuilding. And Ferrari's calculation about their own position relative to this story, already complicated by the 5-word dashboard message and the £100,000 investment, and the email to Maranello, just got more complicated. Because the manufacturer landscape that Winkleman's statement creates is one where the question is no longer whether manufacturers should acknowledge independent builders. It is which manufacturers will be remembered for acknowledging it willingly, and which will be remembered for being forced into it. And Mat Armstrong, through all of it, the statement and the implications and the legislative context and the Ferrari calculation and the door that has been opened in the institutional world and everything that follows from a Lamborghini CEO saying publicly that what he does is something the automotive world needs. Mat Armstrong is in the workshop addressing the BCM reset, preparing for IVA, working through the final stages of a build that started with a crashed Chiron in a Copart yard and is ending with the most significant automotive story of the modern YouTube era and a statement from the CEO of two of the most exclusive car brands in the world that the work he does matters. The camera is running. The audience is watching. And the next part found in this Bugatti might be from a brand nobody has guessed yet. And the next statement from a CEO might be even more shocking than the one we just covered. If this video has given you everything today, if it has made you feel the full weight of what Stefan Winkleman saying what he said about Mat Armstrong actually means, and where this story goes now that the CEO of Lamborghini and Bugatti has publicly acknowledged the legitimacy of what Mat Armstrong does, then show us right now. Hit that like button immediately. Drop a comment below and tell us the one thing the statement changes most. Does it change how Ferrari will respond to Mat Armstrong's email? Does it change how the right to repair conversation develops? Does it change how other manufacturers position themselves before July 2026? Or does it change something about Mat Armstrong himself and what he builds next?